Hello and welcome to Common Ground, an inside look at Suffolk County. I'm Seth McCoy. Joining me tonight, first up, is Selvin Chambers, Executive Director of the Food Project, and Maya Greally, who is a root crew member of the Food Project. So, Selvin, what is the Food Project? Well,
let me give you a little bit of history and knowledge of how the Food Project was founded. It was founded about 23 growing seasons ago, so this is our 23rd season, so we refer to our years as seasons. Yeah. But about 25 years ago, there was a suburban farmer by the name of Ward Cheney and an African-American minister and his wife, Alan and Jeanette Callahan, who came together to really think about how can we break down social barriers and really get our young people to engage each other and really learn about each other, and they thought the common ground was food. So Ward, being a farmer, said, hey, I have land, I know how to grow food, and Alan and his wife Jeanette said, well, we know how to engage young people from the inner city. And so the goal was really to bring these core group of people together. And it started with about 12 to 15 young people about 23 growing seasons ago. And it has now grown and blossomed into a program that has about 120 young people year-round. And so during the summer, we have 78 young people who are in our SEED program, which is the intersection work of our program. And what they do is really learn about sustainable food systems, how to grow fresh, healthy food, how to learn about commonalities, learn how to engage communities. And during the summer, one day a week, our young people actually work for hunger relief organizations. They distribute the food, and they also learn what's going on in other communities and organizations to really be more socially conscious about what's going on around them.
Right, and some people might think, I mean, for me, it seems like in the last few years, there's really been this push to have homegrown vegetables and fruits, but this is something that, as you mentioned, has been going on now 23 growing seasons. Yes. Is that what you said? So that's pretty fascinating for me to hear, because I don't think that many people would would know that something like this may be going on out there. And so this is a great outlet for kids to not just be centered around a TV and eating pizza and chips and that sort of thing. This is healthy living. So that's sort of what is, I would guess, is the mission. Is that something that...
That's part of the mission. I think when we do this work, it's really looking at the lens of really how do we teach people about the land that we're cultivating and how the food impacts everybody, no matter what walk of life that you come from, and how can they sustain their own food system in their community, but also how can they impact their community in a very different way. You know, the great thing about the work that we do is that we're teaching young people to be leaders here and now. And so in our two regions, which is the greater Boston region, which consists of our urban farm in Dorchester and also our largest farm in Lincoln, and then we have the North Shore region, which consists of Lynn, Beverly, and Wenham. And so the young people come from many social, ethnic, and educational backgrounds. The young people come from about 40 different communities stretching from Newburyport to Brockton. And so the young people during the summer are put on a diverse team of about 12 to 14 young people, and they are really engaged in learning about each other, the land, the food, and the communities that we grow and serve in.
How do you find the farms for the farming to happen?
Well, we don't own any of our land that we farm on, and so we have great partnerships with our community partner, the town of Wenham. We have a 5-year lease with the town of Wenham. The trustees of reservations allows us to use their land in Beverly. Town of Lincoln allows us to use land, and then we have a great partnership with DSNI, Dudley Street Neighborhood Initiative, and they are responsible for the Dudley Triangle, and they are our landlord for the next 99 years. So we have a 99-year lease with them.
That's near my home. That's near my house, that little triangle. So I've seen those beds there. What are some of the things that are grown at the locations?
Oh, we grow squash. We grow collards, bok choy, lettuce, carrots, raspberries. You name it. If it's green, we grow it.
Before we talk a little bit about the youth programs, which is why Maya is here, I want to show a quick video for the viewers at home. So, David?
I'm Jackson Mency. I'm 18. I'm originally from Somerville, but I moved to Cambridge over the summer. Now I'm an assistant crew leader for SEED crew.
My name is Debbie Jakes, and I'm 17. I live here in Jamaica Plain, and I regularly think about how lucky I am to live where I do and go to school where I do and just have the life that I do here, because it's really pretty great.
I'm Jezebel. I'm from Peabody. I'm very nervous. I'm scared that my youth will come up to me and ask me questions that I'm not ready to answer. I hope that by the end of the summer, I've created a really good bond with the youth and just enjoy my last summer before I go into college.
I hope the summer's really, really good. I'm really, really excited to meet all the youth and members of Seed Crew, just so I can learn about new people and meet new people.
It's a lot of work, physical work, and then the leadership stuff, and then college looming on the horizon. So getting overwhelmed would not be fun. I'm going to try to keep myself balanced.
So Maya, that shows a little bit about what you do on a day-to-day basis as part of the food project. There are several different programs for the youth. There's a seed crew, the dirt crew, and the root crew, and then of course there's the alumni. You are now root crew.
Yeah.
But talk a little bit about the seed crew. That's the first step, if you will.
Yeah, so Seed Crew is the summer program. It's the first program you do in the food project, and a lot of it is really kind of sowing the seed, I guess, for your kind of journey through the food project. It teaches you a lot of the basics of farming. You do a lot of weeding, and you
You
gain.
can come to my house after. I have tons of weeds. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, you gain a greater appreciation for land, especially I'm a city kid, and I go camping, so I thought nature, blah blah blah. But spending time actually getting your hands in the dirt and coming home with dirt in your shoes every single day, and you're just spending hours and hours just kind of bonding with people, learning about people. And then we have lots of workshops where you learn a lot about the food system and social justice and things like that.
Does it give you a better appreciation too when you're out and about in the city at the different parks and you might see people leave trash behind? And I can imagine that if it was me, I mean, I'm furious as it is when I see people who litter, but for somebody like you who spends all this time with your hands in the dirt, that might irritate you a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. It's really interesting watching, because you're not the only person evolving. Everybody is kind of you're seeing these kids go from city kids who kind of oh, it's the dirt, I don't want to touch it, there's bugs everywhere.
Worms.
Yeah, exactly. And then by the end of it, everybody's we're all earthy, crunchy hippies. We roll around the mud, we're having throwing worms at each other. And just walking around the city, it's definitely different now, because I work in the Lincoln land, so it's used to these rolling hills and all of this vegetables everywhere. But in the city, it's kind of desolate, I guess.
Right.
It feels my friend Lorraine, she said that the air in Lincoln smells better. She breathes better out there. It's just nicer.
Yeah, it's nice and fresh.
Yeah.
Right? What made you want to get involved with the food project to begin with?
Well, my mom worked in the nonprofit world, so she knew about the food project, and I was looking for a summer job, and farming attracted me for some reason. I thought oh, this is gonna be a great way to get fit over the summer, and I didn't really know about any of the social justice aspects of the food project then. But as I got more and more into it, it was definitely, that's what the food project became to me. It was about learning about social justice and making a change.
Tell me a little bit about that and what it is exactly you've learned about social justice since becoming part of the food project.
A lot of the food project is it's so many different kinds of people who, no one's the same, no one. I don't think it's the diverse group of people, and then when we all come together, we talk a lot about oppression and then how it affects yourself, how it affects other people. You learn about the different viewpoints of one of it. One of our vision's guidelines is try on, and one way of thinking of it is if you put a water bottle in the middle of a circle, you're all not going to see the same point of view of the water bottle, no matter how hard you try. And a lot of it's about trying to see it from all those different types of views.
Yeah, it definitely would give you a better appreciation of different people, different communities, and backgrounds that you might not otherwise experience, even if you do live in the city.
Yeah, definitely.
But now you're a root crew member, so what does that entail? Is it more of the same? Is it a little bit more responsibility?
Root Crew is definitely a lot more responsibility because you're kind of, there's like everybody's different ages, but you're kind of like the big kids. You have more experience. You're kind of like in charge. You're responsible for the seed crew, making sure like everybody's staying in track kind of. And there's different root crews. So there's like Lincoln, Boston, and the North Shore. And Lincoln, which I'm in, is a lot of manual labor. It's definitely like very physical. It's hard. Like a lot of it's not even the physical, it's just like the mental. Like if you're gonna have to weed an acre of garlic, like it's gonna take multiple days and like you just gotta power through it. And then Boston is a lot of like working with the community, checking up on raised bed gardens everywhere. And then North Shore, I'm pretty sure it's just like a lot of like farm work too. So a lot of it is about trying to like build on what you've learned in seed crew or in dirt crew and just...
Yeah, I skipped over dirt crew, so
Oh,
you have
yeah.
to talk a little bit about the dirt crew.
Dirt crew is the academic year program, and so there's dirt crew for people straight out of seed crew, and then there's dirt crew for the, well, root crew, but during the academic year. And dirt crew, it's called that because it's kind of dirt. It's like the nutrients and things like that. You're really soaking in. You're going deeper into what you're doing. You do a thing. You lead volunteer groups, so it's a lot more like you have to know a lot about the food project, know a lot about the land, and be able to like communicate that to other people.
What's something that you've learned that you maybe were just so in awe of once you actually learned it that you still think about that moment? It's sort of like an aha moment.
During one of our workshops, it was about, I think, sexism and things like that, and something that really kind of blew my mind that I'd never really thought about was, like, you don't really think about things like racism, sexism a lot, like the actual definition of it, and so we learned it's like, sexism, racism, it's about people who are targeted and people who aren't targeted, and like you hear the word like reverse racism tossed around a lot and things like that, but it doesn't exist. Like it's not possible for there to be reverse like racism, reverse sexism, and things like that. And that was just like that was a very like aha moment for me. Like during that workshop, a lot of people were having really hard time like grasping at that, like just not understanding like how does that work because we don't talk about it.
That's true. We don't talk about those things. And Selvin, is that something that you're looking to inspire these kids to actually have that kind of dialogue, to know what's out there in the greater world?
Well, that's an important part of the work that we do. And so it's not necessarily to teach everyone to be a farmer, but it's really to teach them to be socially conscious, because some people will go on and become farmers and really think about our food system. Some people will become talk show hosts, and some people will become lawyers or carpenters. The important thing is that they think about how the decisions that they make in life impact other people. And I think there's a very intentional approach to the work that we do by really getting them to have conversations around the work. It was something interesting that happened to my first year here. We have this term which is called talk and work while you're in the field. And there was a 14-year-old Christian girl and there was a 15-year-old Muslim boy, and they were having a conversation about their religion. And it wasn't a very common conversation that I was used to. These young people were having a conversation about what they liked about each other's religion and the commonalities. And one of them said to me, "Selvin, you're breaking the rule." So I started working faster, and I said, I'm working. They says, "That's not the problem. You're doing a lot of listening." And
not talking.
And not talking. And so there's a very intentional approach to really allow them some space to share who they are. And so it really helps break down those barriers. And that's one of the reasons that we have them engaged on Wednesdays with the hunger relief organizations, because they get to see the other side of this work and how it impacts the community. So. Well,
and that must be very rewarding too, to go and have your work presented to people who actually really, really need it.
Yeah, it was, I think going to the hunger relief organizations was probably like the highlight, like one of the highlights of my summer. During, you do it during seed crew and you do it during dirt crew. So I went to the Boston Living Center, which is not a shelter, but they serve food, and there's like a hair salon, and it's all nice. And we helped cook, we helped serve, we ate lunch with people, and it was really great seeing like this one example is like we had squash, and then we brought the squash to the Boston Living Center, and then we cooked the squash and then served it to the people, and seeing like the direct result is something you don't often get to see. And just like it was really great seeing like people light up, like people get really excited when they see you. They're just like, "Oh, like you made this, like, oh, it's so good." And it was just really great.
Well, it must be satisfying too to see something from a seed to a product, if you will, and be able to point to it and say, "I grew that."
Definitely.
That's pretty good. There are also community programs that the food project does. So Selvin, can you talk a little bit about some
We
of
have
those?
CSAs, which is Community Sustained Agriculture, which allows people to access some of our food at a cost. And then we have our local farmers market. We have the Eggleston Farmers Market, which is Saturdays between 10 and 2. We have the Dudley Commons Farmers Market, which is on Thursdays. And then in Lynn, Central Square Farmers Market, which is our biggest farmers market. So those are some of the ways that it intersects. We also have a program which is called Serve and Grow, which allows volunteers to come onto our farms, and the young people themselves actually help lead the volunteers. And it's kind of like a day in the life of the food project. So they learn about some of the work that we do, and then the young people actually lead them into service. So it allows people to really learn about us, both hands-on, to really learn about the work that we're doing, and also the young people that are doing the work day to day.
If I came, what would my start to finish, what time would I start? And take me through a typical day, if you will.
As a volunteer?
As a volunteer.
So usually it's a 3-hour block of time, and so there'd be a circling up where there's an opportunity for people to share their name and who they are and what brought them there, and then there's a team building exercise which kind of breaks down barriers and gets people loose. And then there's an overview of the work, what they'll be doing during the day, an overview of the food project in itself, and then out to the field you go. And it could be from harvesting food to weeding, to boxing up CSA shears. There's a lot of different things that take place during the Serve and Grow period. So that's one way that we intersect with the community. And then there's also workshops which we call Food for Thought workshops. You want to talk a little bit about the Food for Thought? Okay, I will talk about Food for Thought. Okay.
Maya's like, nope.
No problem. And I think with the Food for Thought workshop, that's an opportunity for both our young people to really engage the community and really teaching them about our food system. And so there's workshops that really teaches them how to grow food, and then there's workshops that talk about social justice. And that's a great thing about the Food for Thought. It really allows young people, again, to engage the community, share information, learn what we're doing. Our Dudley Street greenhouse, which is a 10,000 square foot greenhouse, Danielle Andrews, who is our farm manager in Boston, is phenomenal. The greenhouse is what I consider like the mecca of that community. That community thrives through the fact that everyone in that community constantly is coming through the doors of the greenhouse, learning about growing food, or stopping in and sharing the stories about what they're growing in their backyard, or asking Danielle about how to grow something. So the greenhouse in itself
That's
is
where I'm going to
really
have to go, because I have to figure out how to grow stuff in my backyard. I live near Dudley, so.
Well, there's always workshops that are taking place in the greenhouse in Dudley Street, in Dudley's neighborhood. So.
Yeah, I love seeing the raised beds in the neighborhood, so and in the square. So it's great to see. So Maya, for you, you work up on the North Shore.
No, I work in Lincoln.
Sorry, in Lincoln.
Yeah.
So how does it work? Like, how do you get there? Because a kid might be watching this and saying, "Oh, that would be really interesting," but how am I going to get to these places and do all these things with other kids?
So it's really great, because most jobs you have to get there by yourself, blah, blah, blah. You have to pay for your own transportation. But the food project, we all travel together, kind of, and they supply our T passes, so it's really great. And for me personally, I live pretty far away compared to a lot of people. So for me to get to Lincoln, I have to take a bus to the Orange Line, take the Orange Line to North Station, and from North Station, we take a commuter rail train to Lincoln, and from Lincoln, there's a bus that brings us to the farm.
That's a lot of traveling.
It's worth it.
Well, as long as you like it, that's the bonus, right?
Yeah.
So, and then, are some of these kids that you're with now, are they kids that you've worked with since the beginning, or do you stay? So, I guess the question is, do you stay with the same core group of people, or is it always rotating so you're meeting new people and getting those new experiences?
During Seed Crew, you start out with your own little crew, and then when you go to Dirt Crew, it's a mixture of a bunch of different crews, all pulled from the same region, like Greater Boston, North Shore. Like North Shore has their own, and Greater Boston has their own, and we all intermingle. And then when you get to Root Crew, it's the real mixing of everybody, because there's people from different Seed Crew years, so it can range from like 2013 to I think like 2011 right now. So everybody, like, you're always meeting new people, because people will leave for a summer and then come back after, or people will just keep on doing it all the way through. So it's a lot of different people.
That's great. What do you think you're going to do when you get older and get out of high school? You're a sophomore, right now, so you've got a couple of years before you go on to college or maybe a vocational school or something else. But what do you think you're going to take from this experience into the future?
A lot of it during like during Seed Crew, and then during Dirt, I was really in love with like farming and like the land and things like that. And as time went on, I realized I love farming. It's probably not very practical, so I wanted to get like the most out of it while I could. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying. The academic year program is pretty hard to make. It's every Saturday for like the whole Saturday day, and it was definitely a trial for me during the school year because it's school, like there's lots of tough stuff to do. There's extracurriculars and all that. Mm-hmm. But during the summer, it's definitely like something that takes up most of your summer, but it's so like worthwhile. Mm-hmm. It's definitely something like to continue like for a very long time. Like a lot of kids.
So you could. I mean, Selvin was joking earlier that you could come work there after you get out of school. So
get maybe my job. At some point.
He'll groom you. You can slide right into the executive director slot.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that come back. I know Jess, who works there now. I forget. Do you know it?
She's been there since she's 14. I'm not going to reveal her age, but her gap year was when she left the food project and went to college, and then she came back.
Wow.
Yeah.
She was a farmer, and now she's a program and community outreach manager that works directly with the youth and community partners.
That's great. I know, so we have about 2 minutes left, but Maya had mentioned to me off camera that she tried to be a vegan for a little bit, and I mentioned FOMO, which she tells me she's not a fan of FOMO because of the coconut base, but needs to find a nut base. That was my advice to you, because FOMO is the best, of course. Selvin, before we wrap up, can you give people at home a way to get in touch with the Food Project if they want to get involved in any way, shape, or form?
Best way to go is to www.thefoodproject.org. That gives you all the information, whether you want to come out and learn about Serve and Grow, you want to learn about our farmers market, you want to learn how young people get involved in the food project. The best way is to go to our website, and we're always looking for volunteers to help do the work that we do, because we can't get this work done without the support of helpful volunteers and funders.
Great. Well, it's a great project, and I was very interested in hearing about it, and I'm going to tune more into the Food Project. So Maya and Selvin, thank you so much. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to be back with Milton Jones, Director of Operations, and Rachel Fazzino from the Louis D. Brown Peace Institute. Stay tuned.